Joining me now is the mayor of Pittsburgh, Bill Peduto. Mayor Peduto, thanks so much for joining us, and I'm so sorry that it's under these circumstances that we're talking.
Yep. Thank you, Jake.
We saw so many of your city's residents coming together for that very moving vigil last night. I know you personally knew some of the victims. How is Pittsburgh coping?
Our heart's broken. We are a small city. What affects one community affects all of us, and right now I would say that there's a shock that is over this city. But you know, Pittsburgh is a strong city. We are a people that have a strong resilience, and we will get through this.
I know the investigation into the shooter's moving forward. His motive seems obvious from his social media posts, but what have you learned from law enforcement about why they, as they try to figure out why this happened?
Well, the investigation is obviously continuing right now. The social media posts were discovered early while the situation was still ongoing. It seems that the motive is very clear, that he had sought out this one synagogue because of activities that they had done working with refugees and immigrants, and that his message of hate was against our Jewish community.
We've learned a lot from the shooter's social media posts, which are just vile, the anti-Semitism and anti-immigrant sentiment. Were authorities aware of any of these posts prior to this horror? And do you think authorities should have been aware of them or made aware of them by people at the social media companies?
Absolutely not. There was no information on this actor. There was nothing to create a red flag or an alert to something that would be any type of illegal activity, let alone something this horrific.
President Trump spoke out and condemned anti-Semitism after the attack. He says he's heading to Pittsburgh. Were you satisfied with the president's response to this massacre?
Well, right now our concern is really with the victims' families and with those that have been injured, including our own police officers. The president's assistance in having federal officials coming to Pittsburgh and having FBI officials from around the country coming here is really what we've been concentrating on.
In addition to the 11 killed, obviously several individuals were very seriously wounded, including police officers. How are they doing?
Was able to visit with one of the officers yesterday. I'll be visiting with two of the other officers this morning. With the officer that I visited, his spirits were high. He was one of the two SWAT officers who were wounded in the gunfire. He actually had his artery severed and could have been much, much worse if it weren't for his partner in placing a tourniquet on him at that moment.
A rifle and 3 handguns were recovered from the scene of the shooting. Do we know anything about these firearms? Were they purchased legally? Is there anything in the shooter's background that should have prevented him from being able to purchase them?
Yeah, right now there's a combined effort on law enforcement at local, state, and federal level. Part of that investigation is on the firearms that the individual owned. There's no new information at this time, however, over whether the firearms were obtained legally or illegally.
We often hear after mass shootings, you never think it could happen here, you never think it would happen, in our neighborhoods until it does. What message do you have for the rest of America, the rest of the world watching right now, when we don't know where something like this could happen again?
Yeah, let me just explain it to you this way. This was my old city council district. I represented this area and worked in the community for 19 years before I was the mayor. I live 5 blocks from where I'm standing right now. 3 blocks from here is where Fred Rogers lived. This is literally Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And when you think about the hate that is out there, and you think about the ability for irrational behavior to be empowered to do something like this, we really have to think about whether or not what we need are more guns to allow irrational behavior to continue, or whether we need rational laws to make sure that it ends. Now, Pittsburgh is a very strong city. We are strong people and we are resilient. We've gone through a lot of things in the past and we'll get through this. But mark my words, this will be a new mark in a discussion that needs to happen in this country with people that are pragmatic in finding solutions to problems.
Mayor Bill Peduto, thank you so much. And again, our deepest condolences to you and to the city of Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Jake.